Welcome back to another Guns Contractors video where I explain why I run S30 buckets and hitches on both of my machines, this 18Z here and my 8026 that you've seen in my other videos. I'll run through some of the reasons why I decided to go with this hitch system, some of the advantages of it, if there are any disadvantages, and whether I recommend, if you're looking to buy a new machine or maybe future-proof your machine in the future for possible tilt rotator upgrade, whether you would want to run S-type hitches on your machines. These principles apply to all weight classes, not just me with minis. I'm kind of lucky that I can share attachments, but I'll come on to more of that later. But the same principles apply across the entire weight range of machinery out there. So there's a lot to like about the S-type hitch, whether it's from Engcon or Steel Wrist, Rototilt, or even another brand. There are quite a few people now making these, SMP and others, various others. S-type is just a, I don't know if it stands for Scandinavian hitch system, but that's sort of reportedly the rumour in the UK. But really what it is it's just a different type of hitch, a bit like clack, for example, which is another style of hitch. And their main advantage really overall is build height, because the pins are very, very close to the bucket. Traditionally they have a really wide yoke as such for the hitch, and that really does help with sort of slowing the wear down that you can get with traditional hitches, etc. I've found anyway. And the idea, of course, you've got lower build height, and when you're stacking that with tilt rotators, etc., you know, they really do help to keep the build height down overall, which of course helps with breakout force and genuine drivability, really. Down here, I've been lucky enough to get hold of a standard JCB bucket for this machine and my Engcon 450 bucket. Both of these are designed to be on a 1.5 ton machine, so they're very comparable. And you can kind of see here, this one, okay, has got teeth. There's not a lot in it really between the two at all. In fact, I was surprised in a way. There's been a few surprises coming in this video, and it's a few things have surprised me. One of them is the shape, but this being it's not a cable bucket. If you were to put my narrow cable bucket next to the sort of 300mm bucket that JCB make, it would be quite prominent, but you get that longer toe, which is I absolutely love. And for digging around services and things, the longer toe that you get with those sort of buckets are absolutely fantastic. This 451 doesn't have that, because it's a traditional digging bucket shape. From Engcon. I didn't specify a 450 wide cable bucket, for example, which I probably could have gone with, or that would have been a special build. Where these two have really surprised me is the weight, which I would traditionally have said, you know, you'd have got a lighter bucket with the Scandinavian ones. They make some beautiful buckets, and certainly with my 8026 compared to its standard buckets I bought it with, the new buckets I have are hugely lighter. I've not put them on the scales, obviously I sold my old buckets beforehand, but a huge difference in weight. And it's one of the good things really when you come to driving a machine with a tilt rotator on, just having a little bit less metal in the bucket, or certainly weight, is a massive factor. The great thing with the Scandinavian buckets, they tend to use hardox in places. This bucket here by JCB will no doubt just be standard steel. That 450 bucket's got a hardox cutting edge, which really do help, and some of them get hardox cheeks and reinforcement and all that kind of stuff. But the real surprise here has been weight, because as you can see here, we've got a weight of 35 kilos on this bucket, and to be fair, I've been quite impressed with this bucket, and it hasn't obviously been and done any digging, but it looks a good shape. They've got some nice weld tails down here. You know, it's pretty low. The build height isn't huge for the pins. The teeth are quite nice, you know, nice sort of shape. It's got a bit of reinforcing on the side of it. Nice looking bucket, to be honest. I'm not going to get too sexed up about buckets, but if you're comparing the two, my Engcon buckets, which I absolutely love, this actually has a weight of 45 kilos. Now, I haven't put them on the scales. This bucket is just slightly bigger in volume, not a lot over this. I think about sort of 2 or 3 litres, so nothing to really shout home about particularly. But in this size of a 1.5 ton machine, when you directly compare these buckets, you do not have the weight saving that I traditionally thought you would. But I definitely do on my 8026. I can guarantee that those buckets are probably 30% lighter. And I'll have to get hold of some 8026 buckets and compare the two, a bit like I'm doing here, which I'll try and do in the future. But here, yeah, there's no difference in weight. In fact, if anything, the Engcon bucket is well, 10 kilos heavier. Crazy, wouldn't have expected that. The other advantage that you get, of course, is, as I said before, the build height. Now, I've measured the build height on this standard 18Z that we've got here with the standard buckets, and I'll measure it here for you now, and I've got a gut feeling there's not going to be a lot in this. So we're on the centre of the pin there, centre of the pin, that is 10 mil less. 10 mil. Not a lot, is it? Really not a lot. It does again make a big difference on as the machine sizes go up, but I guess for this machine to have it's a manual hitch on this, which is really, it's another great advantage of it actually. It latches back, so you only have to get off the machine once. It latches back, and as soon as you you touch this little finger here, it fires the pins and locks the bucket in place. It's got a little indicator on the front here that tells you when it's unlocked. Great little hitch that. I really like it, and the hook was added by Neil at my request. That's a gun spec hook. A lot of the steel wrist machines have got those, and well, I just fancied playing with the big boys really. Dead handy for moving ton bags and other bits and bobs around. Now, one thing that definitely is lighter on this is the hitch. This hitch, 16 kilos, and I think the one on my 8026 is maybe 18 kilos. That is a huge weight saving over the standard hitches that you get with these diggers. I think my old JCB hitch on the 8026 was something like 45 kilos or something, an absolute monster. So I've kind of offset a lot of my tilt rotator there in just the hitch alone. But when it comes to buckets, build height on the 1.5 tonner, nothing in it really, 10 mil, and weight, as we've just seen down here, not a lot in it again. And that's the same for the 600 mil bucket that I checked. In fact, the JCB one again is a bit lighter. So shocking discoveries here on the Guns Contractors YouTube channel. Things that we thought aren't quite as they seem. There you go, that's why I do these videos, and that's why I try and give you an honest bit of feedback on how I found it. Now, of course, for me, there's a lot more to it than just build height and weight, although those are all important factors, especially when running a tilt rotator. But the main reason that I went S-type on this machine here, which is never going to see a tilt rotator, I don't need it on this small machine for the kind of work it does for me. It's a canopy machine. I haven't got the options that I could even swap the tilt rotator around. But anyway, that aside, what I can do is switch attachments. So things like my ripper, I only have to buy one of them because I can run it between the two machines. I've got breakers, I've got augers, I've got screening buckets, I've got all kinds of things, some of which you guys haven't seen at all, but all of that can be switched and run on both machines with the same type of hitch. And if necessary, I can run the smaller buckets on the bigger digger, or I've even run, when I've been greedy, the bigger buckets on the smaller digger, which it will do. And when you're on price work, nothing like a bit of a bulk bucket going on. It does choke a bit of the 750 digging bucket, but she'll do it. She will do it if you're sensible. So mass production excavation mode, big bucket, small digger, winning. But in seriousness, it saved me a huge amount of money when I bought this second machine in not buying it with the buckets, the standard JCB buckets, and of course I've gained the ability to switch attachments. So whilst it was more expensive, the hitches are more expensive. They're almost twice the price actually. The buckets themselves aren't too bad, and these GBO, this is the GBO1, grading bucket 01, the 01 profile. The profile I run on my 8026 is the 02 profile from Engcon, and all of these weights and things are up on their website. So if you're ever wondering who's running lighter buckets and what they're doing. You can always look on these manufacturers' websites and with a pinch of salt get a pretty accurate idea as to the weight of these things overall. I say just be careful because some of them quote things in different ways to others, so you have to kind of understand what their what the weight refers to, particularly with tilt rotator units, but and how they're set up, top hitches, etc. Anyway, I diverse again. So massive advantage for me being able to share attachments. The extra cost of the hitch, etc., is offset against the ability to share rake buckets, etc., rippers between the two machines, and then I only need to have one of those, and I can share them between the two. Obviously, if I had two lots of people operating and a bigger setup, I'd probably need more attachments because two people might be working at the same time. But for me, small owner operator, works really well. So they're my thoughts behind S-type hitches. I've had zero wear out of them. Absolutely fantastic for that. Another real advantage. You know, that Engcon on my 8026 it's got to be 2,000 hours old now, and I've given it a lot of abuse. The bucket profile, the edge, the cutting edge has done really well. You know, you can see it's starting to kind of wear, but even on the corners, which traditionally get the most hammering, it's only really rounded them off. It's doing exceptionally well, and there's zero play in the hitch. I mean, nothing. There is absolutely no sideways play in this. Obviously this one hasn't done so many hours, nearly 240 now, but even on the 8026 there is no play in that hitch plate whatsoever. And we've all driven machines with hitches with a lot of play in them after, well, only a few hours sometimes, so that's another real advantage of it. But yeah, they're my reasons, and that's the way I run it, and it works well for me. Across different weight sizes, of course, you'd need bigger. I'd need to go up from S30 to a bigger size, and then it wouldn't work so well. But staying below what S30 can handle works really well for me, and has been another excellent addition to my arsenal of attachments. Thanks very much for watching. I'll try and always keep you guys updated on my thoughts and improvements and things that I want to see in the industry. If you like what you're seeing, please keep subscribing, and hopefully I'll have some more videos coming along very soon. Thank you very much.